Hi there. Thanks for stopping back by. My name is Ed Reed, and you can call me Ed or you can call me Reed, doesn't matter which. And for those of you who might have been wondering, no, I'm not a minister, I'm not a preacher, I'm not an evangelist. I am ordained, but that doesn't mean much. I like to say that I'm ordained, but I'm not trained. So I don't try to teach you the Bible necessarily. That's for somebody else to do. But what I like to talk about is my personal religion, my personal approach to following Jesus, which I call the Chapel in the Meadow, and its accompanying lifestyle, which is the Meadow way. Ni is that Gaelic word, Naoi, which means 9. It actually sometimes is used in Old Gaelic to also mean Noah, as in the guy in the flood. But we're going to use it to mean the word 9, the number, because that's somewhat relevant. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is where does that come from? Where do we get Ni, or 9? Well, you remember that logo? You've seen this before, right? The colorful squares with looks like a Rubik's Cube. Well, there are 9 squares on there, and that's where Ni, or 9, comes from. Now, what's relevant about those colorful 9 squares? Well, this whole thing, the Rubik's Cube looking design here, is what we in the Meadow way refer to as the Novem, Novem, which means 9 in Latin, and it's where the word November comes from. The Novem is what this design here with the 9 squares is called. In Latin, it means 9. And it's made up of 3 lines of 3. Now, you remember what 3s are in the Meadow way tradition, right? Those are called Trines. Remember that? Trines, things that come in 3s. Well, guess what? The Novem, this 9 square design here, happens to be made up of 3 trines. 1, 2, 3. Up and down, sideways, doesn't matter which way. And I'm going to tell you what those 3 trines are. The first one, peace. Remember this one? You might have remembered this from some previous talks. What is it? Peace, beauty, and what? Life. That's right. Peace, beauty, and life. That's the first trine. Okay? The second row of 3 here, the second trine, is the trine of temps. And what that trine of temps is are these: tempered, temperate, and temporal. Tempered, temperate, temporal. That's the trine of temps. And then the third one down here, which we'll get into in a minute, is the trine of saints. There's 3 different categories of saints that we put a lot of emphasis and importance on, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But let's back up a minute. Let's talk about these things one at a time here. The first trine was what? It was peace, beauty, and life, right? Okay, well, that's pretty much what it sounds like. We believe that God, when he or she or it or whoever God was, created the universe and the world, it was created to be peaceful, beautiful, and full of life. And so it is. That hasn't changed. The world is still full of peace, beauty, and life. Now, sometimes things happen that are less than beautiful, that's for sure. Sometimes things happen where life is destroyed or peace is disrupted. But when that happens, it's part of the plan. It's either part of the normal food chain, or it's an accident that occurred, something by happenstance. Something interrupted the plan. Because God did create fate to step in sometimes when we least expect it. So if peace, beauty, and life gets interrupted along the way, that's perfectly natural. It's up to us. We are the appointed stewards of those 3 things. So it's up to us to try to restore peace and restore beauty and life to the world. And so we do. Second trine is called the trine of temps. And that consists of these three things. Tempered. Now, let me define these things. The first one is tempered. The second one is temperate. And the third one is temporal. Now, what's the difference? Well, tempered, you're familiar with tempered steel, right? Well, tempered steel is made by combining it with other things to harden it. And that's what tempered means. It's the art of combining two or more ingredients into the perfect combination that makes the combination strong. They do it with glass sometimes. You've heard of tempered glass and steel. And there's such a thing as a tempered life as well. If you take the right combination of things and you combine them exactly in the right way, what you wind up with is a whole that is stronger than its parts. So that's what we do when we try to create a tempered life, is we take this part and this ingredient, and we take this and that, and we combine them, and if you know just exactly how to do it the right way, the whole, the life, winds up stronger than its individual parts. That's the tempered life. Now, the next part of this one is called the temperate, and that's pretty easy. You know what temperate means, right? That means moderation, or not extreme. And that's a hallmark of the Meadow way and the Chapel in the Meadow, is staying away from the extremes, whether it's political extremes, whether it's religious extremes, social extremes, behavioral extremes. We stay away from all of that. Always strive for moderation, which is called temperate. And then finally, there's the word temporal. Temporal. And that just simply means relating to earthly life and to time, as opposed to outside earthly life, like in heaven or eternity. Temporal means it relates to life today, right now, this moment here on earth. So while some religions focus all their time and their concentration on the hereafter and being saved so that you have a free ticket to heaven, we don't. We focus on making this life and this world the best we can make it. And that's called being temporal. So there you have it. That's the second trine of the Novem. Tempered, temperate, and temporal. And that takes us to the third line here. The third trine of the Novem is the trine of saints. Now, there's three kinds of saints. The first are the historical saints. These are the old saints. Those are the ones that you're familiar with in the Catholic Church. And then there's the second group of saints, which are the living saints, or the new saints, also called the Latter-day Saints. Remember that? We co-travel with the Mormon Church, right? So that's the second group of saints, our friends over there in the LDS Church, who call themselves the Latter-day Saints. So we think of them as the living saints or the new saints. And then the third one is interesting. The third group of saints are what we call personal saints. And we teach that each person, as you're on this journey to formulate your own personal religion, you need to pick at least one, if not more, personal saint. Somebody in your family, maybe, somebody you've known, a friend, a coach, a teacher, somebody you've known. It could even be somebody you don't know, somebody you've read about or seen on TV or somebody, but it's a person that you admire so much that you would follow in their footsteps. You would emulate them and build your life around their value system and their way of living. And if you find one person like that, that's your personal saint. And you keep a picture of them on the wall or on your table in your bedroom, so that you always remember to follow that saint. Mine, I had one. My grandfather was my personal saint. Now, that doesn't mean that I thought any less of my mom or my dad or my cousins or my brothers, but I just had that one person in my life, my grandfather, who meant that much to me that he has always been my personal saint. And someday I'll get more into why that is. So there you go. You have the three saints: the historical group of saints, the living or new saints, and your personal saint. I hope that explains what the Novim, or the Trine of Life, is all about, where we get that word "ni" in the word Meadow way. You have the three trines. You have the first trine, peace, beauty, and life. You have the second trine, tempered, temperate, and temporal. And the third trine, the Trine of Saints, historical, living, and personal. And you know, each and every one of these elements that make up this thing that I call the Novim, with the 9 squares, each of those elements we could talk about at length for hours. And I guess maybe over time in different ones of these discussions we'll do that. But in the remaining moments I have here, let me delve into one of those things in particular. And that's the third part of that first trine: peace, beauty, and life. Let's talk about life and what that means to those of us in the Meadow. It means all life, not just human life, but all living things. Everything from elephants and tigers down to dogs and cats, to turtles and lizards, down to spiders and snakes, to amoebas and bacteria. Everything that's living on earth came from the hand of God. And life is the most divine thing there is on our planet. It's sacred. And you might recall that in Genesis, when God gave us dominion over those things, He essentially asked us to be the stewards over all the other living things, to be their caretaker. And we take that mission seriously. In the Meadow way, we consider it to be our role here on this planet to be the caretakers and the stewards of all the other living things. Now, can you get through a day without taking a life? Probably not. God knows that. God understands. It's part of the food chain. After all, the food chain is part of nature, which God designed in such a way to where, in order for one animal or plant to survive, some other animal or plant has to die. That's just the way it is. If you're going to eat, a plant or an animal is going to have to give up its life. God understands. That's part of nature. That's the food chain. And you can't walk across the street or walk across a field without inadvertently stepping on something and taking its life. God understands. If a mosquito lands on your arm, you're probably going to swat it, right? If a spider crawls into your bed, you're probably going to kill it. God understands. And even within the context of the human experience, there are times when a life has to be taken, when there's no better way out. A soldier on the battlefield, staring eye to eye with an enemy who is about to shoot him, that soldier has a split-second decision to make. Do I allow the enemy to kill me, or do I take his life first? A life is going to be expended one way or the other. God understands. Likewise with a police officer in the field. There are times when he has to pull that service revolver and a life has to be expended. There's no better way out. It's the best option. God understands. What about self-defense? If you're in bed at night and a burglar crawls in through your window and is robbing you and accosting your family and threatening you, you may have no other way out but to grab that pistol and deal with him accordingly. God understands. And you have a situation like abortion. Is there ever a case where the life of an unborn baby has to be taken? There might be. If the only options are to save the mother's life or to save the unborn infant's life, somebody is going to have to make a call. Somebody has to make a decision there. One way or the other, a life will probably be taken. But God understands. It's part of nature that lives sometimes have to be sacrificed. But they don't have to be taken unnecessarily. If you have to hunt to put food on your table, God understands. Sport hunting, is that really necessary? I don't know. You might want to think about it. The important thing is always think of life as being sacred and something that we are supposed to be preserving and acting as stewards of. That's what God wants us to do. In fact, in the tradition of the Meadow way, in the chapel in the Meadow, we actually have a prayer, which I don't really have time to go into right now, but there's a little prayer that theoretically you would say right at the moment when you find yourself about to have to take a life. Right before you have to step on that scorpion that's in the middle of the kitchen floor, or right before you have to take care of that burglar crawling through the window. Theoretically, you would close your eyes for about 10 seconds and talk to God and say, Lord, I'm about to do something I don't want to do, but it's my only option. I hope you understand that I'm doing the best I can. Please forgive me for this life I'm about to take. It's something to that effect, right? It's a little prayer that we say. And when I have more time, we'll delve more into that. But that's about all the time we have for right now. And I want to thank you so much for stopping by and sharing a few moments with me. And until again we meet, happy trails. And may you and your family have a blessed day.